Hello, good morning. Welcome to another tutorial. Today's tutorial we are going to give ourselves an introduction to CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Um, the main use of CSS is to give beauty to your HTML web page. That means to format your HTML web page to make its user interface, look more astonishing, modern, and even responsive. So, in essence, CSS is used to, beautify HTML web page. Okay, so we're going to look at how CSS works. CSS has a basic syntax. The basic syntax of CSS is property. For example, you want to apply CSS to a particular tag, right? So then, for example, if you look at when we used to write our HTML, for example, if this is my HTML, okay, I'm going to save this. I've created a new web folder on the desktop. I called it Marina Fleet. Okay, so I'm going to save this HTML as my home page, index.html, right? So then I'm going to give it a title as Marina Fleet. Okay, you recall when we used to give background to our body. For example, in HTML we say background color, let's say red. If I go to my web folder like this, and I launched this my web page. Okay, I want to launch it on, okay, good, let's do this. Good. You can see Marina Fleet. The background is red because in our HTML we said BG color red. Now, how do we apply CSS? How can we convert this code snippet to CSS? If we're using CSS, then we're going to introduce ourselves to the style attribute. Okay, or we could also use the internal CSS. For example, we can use the style, start with the style attribute. So in CSS, you say background color. So you say background color, and then you give the color name. But to give the color name, you need to bring in a column, and then you say red. So the same effect of BG color equals to red in using the HTML attribute has the same effect as this. Now, this method, I use a different attribute, a HTML attribute called style, and then I'm putting my CSS code, which is background color column red. In CSS, background color here now refers to a property, and then this is column value. So you can assume that the column is like equality sign or equals to, so it's like property then column value. So it means this property, you are giving it a value of red. So I could as well change the color maybe to blue, for example. And if I do that, you can see that. So this method is known as the inline method of applying CSS. There are three methods of applying CSS. So the three methods of applying CSS, for example, I can say methods of applying CSS. So we have three of them, right? Can we make a list of them? Yeah. We have the inline method, which I've just displayed using the what? The style attribute, right? Then we have the internal method. So we're going to look at that shortly. And then we have the external method, which is the most recommended method of applying CSS to the whole of your website. Okay, for example, now this is the inline method where this CSS code only affects the tag that has that attribute, right? So it's not going to affect any other tag except the body tag. So that's the inline method. The inline method is very useful when you want to just adjust just a particular one tag, single tag, and then you just use CSS to just format it. Okay, the internal method on the other hand is where we use this style tag, in the head section. So we bring in this style tag, and then all our CSS code goes in between the opening style tag and the close style tag. So for example, the same code here, to translate it into the internal method, you bring in a selector, then braces open, braces close, and then you can now bring in the property column value. Now body here is our selector. Now if it happens that this page has more than one body tag, then this CSS code is going to affect all the body tag. So the same CSS from inline method have been converted to the internal method. Okay, the internal method. Now, for you to understand the advantage of internal method over the inline method, how you can affect format multiple tags using the internal method. But the problem with the internal method is that it only affects that HTML page where it is defined. For example, if I want to style my li tag, I have three, again, braces open, I have three li tags here, 1, 2, 3. So if I change the color, the color should be might be white, for example. Background should become black, just an example. Okay, now if I have three li tags, which is this and this. All the li tags are gonna change into white color, because I wrote the CSS code inside, using the internal method, inside the style tag, and the style tag is inside the head section. So you are seeing a new function of the head section. So the style tag comes inside the head section. So I can have as many CSS definition as possible in my what internal method. You can see I already have two definitions, one for body tag, one for li tag. I can as well add another one for my h1. I can see my h1 is not more visible since the color is the same as the background color. Of course, it makes sense to disappear, right? So if I say my h1, the color should be let's say gray, for example. Let's say gray. Then okay, let's refresh that. You can see methods of applying CSS. The color of my h1 tag is now gray. Okay, then the last method of applying CSS, which is the method we're going to be sticking to in the course of our CSS tutorial most of the time, is the external method. In this method, you are going to create another file, a CSS file, just the way you create the HTML file. The only difference is that the extension, instead of the HTML extension, you are going to use the CSS.css extension. For example, I want to create a new file now, but I'm going to save this file as a CSS file. So I save it and then I give it a name, say index.css. Okay, doing this, now I'm going to move all my CSS definition from here, from the internal method. I am transiting it to the external method, so I'll transfer all those CSS codes and then I'll just paste them here. Now notice that when you are using the external method where you have the CSS file, you don't need to bring the style tag any longer. The style tag, which I'm going to delete now, is only useful when you are using the internal method. When you are using the inline method, then you use the style attribute. The inline method just for that specific tag in which you have defined it. The internal method affects the page in which it has been defined, while the external method, now look at this, the external method. So I have my CSS code here. Now the external method, if I refresh my browser, you realize that it's not, the whole CSS is gone. You can see the whole CSS is gone. Now I have my external CSS file here. I have to use the link tag to add it to my uh, web page. With this, you realize that one CSS file can be added to multiple HTML page, which makes it easy. So with just one CSS file, you can just link them to all your web pages, and it makes life, easy. Instead of having to define new styles for each and every web page, you just define only one CSS file, and then you can use it to affect all the web pages. Now, if you look at the link tag, there are three attributes. So the real attribute always constant. The type attribute still constant, but the href attribute helps us to specify the address or the location of our CSS file. In this case, my CSS file and my web page are in the same folder. So my CSS file and my web page, they're all in the same web folder, and they're just looking at one another. If you look at it, they're just next to one another. So therefore, I'm just going to put the name of my CSS file, and once I refresh, you see that, oh, the CSS is back. So that's the external method of applying CSS. The external method of applying CSS. Okay, now we're gonna learn, we're gonna continue our tutorial now, looking at background in CSS. Because how do you apply background? Background is very simple. One of the use of background is that is color. We apply background color. But what makes CSS so interesting is the possibility of the design possibility that it provides for you. Okay, for example, background. You can um, use an image for the background of your website. So, for example, okay, I'm gonna create an image. I'm gonna create an image right now. Um, okay, let's just do this. Let's create an image. So quickly, let's create an image. I have no any image on this computer. So I'm gonna just create a new image, this an image. I'm gonna save this in my web folder as well. So I'll just go up, open this one, save it in my web folder. Okay, I'm just going to name it background, or just bg.jpg. Okay, good. So we have an image to use now. So again, this is how you use the URL function to bring up an image. For example, this. Now, if I go and refresh my browser, you realize that I now have a background image. Now, background image, of course, takes precedence over background color. So, if you have a property, for example, this is our property body. The tag is our selector. So the selector, meaning the tag that we're going to apply this CSS code to. So that's our selector. Now, if I have both background color, as I have in this case now, both background color and background image takes precedence over background color. So the background color is still there, but maybe should, in case the image is missing or it can't trace the image, then it's going to just use the color and forget about the image. But if it can find the image, then it's going to use the image as the background. Now, when you are using an image as background, there are many other background functions that helps you to what? To adjust. For example, you can choose the background repeat property to no repeat if you don't want the image to keep repeating. If you look at my own case, the image is repeating. So, but when I refresh and I set the background color to no repeat, we're going to see that it's not repeating. Okay, but the image is very large, so you will not notice it. But you can, so but background repeat takes three attributes. We have the repeat. We have four attributes. It takes repeat, no repeat. It can take repeat. It can take no repeat. It can take repeat x. That means to repeat on the x-axis, or repeat y to repeat on the y-axis. So to quickly showcase that, I'm going to I'll just go to my web folder, and then I'm going to edit this my image. I'll edit it in Paint. Oh, I even have an image editor. I have an image editor. So I'm gonna edit this image. Briefly, I just want to. Oops. Why? Why can't it open it? Okay, let's try Paint. Let's try Paint. Yep. Okay, so I want to I want to give my image a okay, let's see, what can I do? Let's just draw something. Let's change the color to red. Let's draw another one. Like this. Okay, good. Now I want to reduce the size of this image, so I'm just going to do something like this. Good. Then I'm going to save it. Good. Then I'm going to refresh my browser. I hope it takes effect. Good. You can see now the image is a bit smaller, so you can see that, but it's not more repeating, right? Okay, I still want to reduce. I still want to okay, I'm going to just do this now. Let's do this like this. Okay, I'll just do this. I'll cut this one. I just want to I want to, what do I want to do? I want to create a new one. Okay, good. I want to create a new image. Do you want to save? No. I want to paste this one like this. Then what next? What next? I will just create this like this. Good. I'll save it. I'm just creating an image from nothing. Okay. Then I want to save it on in my web folder again. Okay, I'll call it. Do I want to save it as PNG? No. I want to save it as JPG. Maybe I'll call it bg2.jpg. Okay, that's my second image. It's much smaller than the first one. So now I want to use bg2 like this. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to refresh my web page. Now look at this. Can you see this? Can you see this? Now in this case here, my background is being repeated. So by default it repeats. So by default it repeats. So the default property is repeat. So that's what we've seen. If I want to, I don't want it to repeat at all, and I'll bring the no repeat value. Background repeat, no repeat. So it just shows it the way it is, and it uses the original size, right? Then if I want it to repeat on the x-axis, I will come to repeat x. Then it repeats horizontally. If I say repeat y, it repeats vertically, right? Okay, so that's background repeat. We have other background attributes such as background attachment, background position. You can set position the background within the element that it's affecting or it's being applied to. Okay, so we're going to stop here today. In our next lesson, we're gonna be looking at fonts. We're gonna be looking at fonts. How do you use change the fonts of your web page? Then we look at other advanced topics such as how you could create classes, groups. How you can also you know um, change beautify your web page by affecting the text. We also look at links and all that. By the time we finish looking at all this, then we are now coming to we are going to now look at some short projects. Okay, see you in the next class.